Right now is a terrible time to buy a home, and it may not ever be a good time to buy a home looking into the future. At least that's what some people are saying, and it's understandable to see where they're coming from when you look at where mortgage rates are, where home prices are, both of them being high, affordability being so low. It's a very difficult time to purchase a property right now. And according to this article that we're going to go over, it might not ever be a good time to purchase a property. And the argument that I'm going to make here is maybe it never was a good time to purchase a property. And what do I mean by that? I don't mean that purchasing property, purchasing real estate has never been a good investment. Of course, if we look back throughout history, if you bought a home in 2008, if you bought a home in 1990, you're obviously reaping the benefits of appreciation, of the tax benefits if you got a mortgage on your interest write-offs, your mortgage interest rate write-offs, things along those lines. You're reaping the benefits of. But what I mean is, almost every time, if you're a home buyer out there in the market and you're going to purchase a property, it's a scary thing to do. And there's always at least one side that's saying now is not the right time to purchase a property. I mean, if we think back to the most recent housing crash back in 2009, 2010, 2008, a lot of people were scared to jump into real estate. The home prices were falling. There was blood in the streets. Everyone was terrified. And if you were out there buying real estate right now, people were looking at you like you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? Home prices just came way down. Housing is volatile. It's not this safe asset that we thought. Why are you jumping in and investing in real estate? But if we fast forward 15 years, we see that it was a great decision if you were to buy a home around that time. And now we're going to talk about a couple more recent scenarios and get into what exactly I mean when I say it might never be a good time to purchase a property and why that might not matter. But first, my name is Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor here in Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs in Vermont or anywhere across the country, all my contact information is in the description. Feel free to reach out to me directly. And let's get into this first article here. So, coming out of the Atlantic, it will never be a good time to buy a house by Annie Lowry. So let's scroll down to this section, which I think really sums up what she's talking about. And here's what she says. It's a terrible time to buy a house, as we just talked about, right? Mortgage rates are high, home prices are high. It is a tough time to buy a house. But that news, as bad as it is, seems to convey some promise. Someday things will change and it will once again be a good moment to buy. You just have to wait. I'm sorry to tell you that bad news is even worse than it sounds. It's not going to be a good time to buy a house for a really long time. How long? I put that question to a few housing economists and real estate experts. Their response, who knows? A decade, maybe 2030, we would start to see some relief. Daryl Fairweather, the chief economist of Redfin, told me before noting that 2030 is so far off in the future that she could not make any kind of informed prediction. So what she's saying there is right. Right now is a bad time to buy a home, and we might not see any relief for the near term with where building is at, where building's been over the past 10 years, where mortgage rates are at. It's not looking great for the overall outlook of the housing market in terms of affordability, where inventory is likely to stay low. Rates could stay high for the foreseeable future. And even if rates do come down, there's so much demand out there. There's so much potential demand of buyers who are itching to get into the housing market that it might send prices right back up if rates drop. And so that's something that I want to push back on you if you're one of these people that are are waiting for potentially a better time to buy, because back in 2020, back in 2021, when everything was getting bid up well above asking price and there were 20 offers on properties, it was really difficult to purchase a home. I worked with so many buyers that said, I don't want to buy a home right now. It's just way too competitive. The market's way too high. Home prices are sky high. It's not affordable. I can't do it. But when we take a look at the data and we take a look at the affordability back then, we go over here to the housing market. This is the NAR data of affordability back in 2021. So you can see here it was written on June 18th, 2021, up at the top. And this chart is for the year leading up to, it looks like March or April of 2021. And you can see housing affordability the index was at around 182, between 182 and 160, let's say, for most of the year, and as high as 186 in January of 2021. So Remember, the housing affordability index, if you're at 100, that means the median income can purchase the median sales price property with 20% down. They can afford that monthly payment. Now, when the number is above 100, that means it's more affordable, that you don't need to have the median income to purchase the median price property. When it's below 100, that means it's way less affordable. So when we look at where housing affordability is right now, we sit at around 94 out of 100 on the index, according to the St. Louis Fed. Um, so, back then, speaking with those buyers, they were yelling, or not yelling, but they were adamant that they wanted a different type of housing market, that they wanted a market where they didn't have to compete with 20 buyers and bid up well over list price to get the home that they wanted to buy. Well, we're in that market now. It's pretty easy to find a property that doesn't have multiple offers, that isn't getting bid up well above the list price, that the seller will negotiate on their price, that they're going to negotiate on inspection repairs. It's relatively easy to find that out there in the market right now. But still, it doesn't make it an easier time to buy. Just because sellers are willing to negotiate on price, now affordability is way low. Demand is way down because people can't afford to purchase a home with these 7.5% rates and where the prices are right now. And so, if you're sitting there and you're wishing for a different market, you're wishing for lower interest rates. Man, I wish rates were at 3% and then I could lock into a low rate and get a good mortgage. I'm sure there might be some of you thinking that right now. I mean, I wish rates were 3% too. It'd be great. I would love to lock into a lower mortgage. But at the same time, what's that going to do to the housing market? We'd probably see something like we saw in 2020 and 2022. And so the market that we have right now, if we go over to Redfin, we have a market that a lot of buyers were begging for back in 2020, back in 2021, back in the beginning of 2022, where sellers are negotiating on price. You can see here we have the median sales prices is still relatively stable, which is causing this unaffordability out there. But it's a lot of buyers are running away from the housing market because of how unaffordable it is. And if we scroll down to the number of homes that received a price drop, we can see here we're over 2022 levels. We're way above where we were in 2020 and 2021, those blue and gray lines down there. And we have this orange line of where we are now in 2023. 6.5% of listings had price drops. Sellers are much more willing to negotiate, and we see that in the data. So look, the point that I wanted to make is that if you talk to people back in who purchased homes back in the 80s, back in the 90s, when they purchased their property, many of those people thought that they were paying too much for their home. And then you hear what they got it for, and they purchased their home in 1995 for 150,000, and now it's worth 600,000. And back then, they thought they were way overpaying for their home, and they felt like they were really having a tough time affording it. And now it's turned out to be a good investment. And that's not to say that in the short term there's not going to be volatility and housing prices can't fluctuate slightly, but in general, over the long term, it buying a home, it tends to appreciate as the U.S. dollar depreciates in value. So I guess the what I'm trying to say in this video here is you don't want to overextend yourself. You don't want to make a purchase that is reckless, that is going to completely destroy you financially, that's going to push you over the edge and stretch you beyond your monthly spending capacity. But if you're hoping for different market conditions, if you're hoping for lower rates, if you're hoping for lower home prices, you should ask yourself, what does the housing market, what does the general economy look like in that scenario? And is that scenario going to be something that you as the home buyer are going to want to jump into, right? If we say we experience something similar to 2008 and home prices come crashing down 20%, we're in this deep recession. Banks and large financial institutions are failing all around us. There's unemployment on the rise. You're not sure if you're going to have your job moving into the future, potentially as a buyer, or there's a lot of uncertainty about if you lose your job, if you can find another one. Is that the type of environment that you are going to want to purchase a home in and move your cash into? Now, it might be the best environment, but I guarantee when you're in that situation, it's not going to be the easiest decision to make, just like it's not an easy decision or an easy thing to purchase a home right now. And just like it wasn't an easy, purchasing a property wasn't an easy decision or an easy thing to do back in 2020, 2021, or the beginning of 2022. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment. I would love to know what you think. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one.